Sir Topham Hackaway, definitively the least documented person in history. His antics have been witnessed by hundreds, with not that many keeping a close eye on him, never really waiting to see what he uploads next. What made him this way? What is the attraction? What keeps us fascinated? This is the story of Sir Topham Hackaway. And his relationship with the Sega Saturn. Hey all, Sir Topham Hackaway here for a follow-up video to the Sega Saturn Rant video, which so far has been my most popular video that isn't a meme or a short, or isn't James Rolfe making an ass out of himself. So today I'll be addressing some of my concerns with the video and rectifying some things, maybe a little bit of fun facts, and I will be reading off some comments that I feel like were rather poignant. So, fun fact number one, the rant video is stylistically can be broken up into three sections. From the intro to the end of the first outdoor segment is, I want to say, the emblem section of the video. And then the history section, I want to say, stylistically is based off of Oddity Archive, albeit with a little more meme magic, I guess. And then the rant, all the way to the end, is more of a Quentin Reviews style video. I highly recommend you check out these three YouTubers, especially Oddity Archive, because I feel like Oddity Archive doesn't get a lot of love. Mostly because he's an AV geek, but who isn't an AV geek? Am I right, folks? Look at me. I'm an AV geek, and I'm going to be on YouTube. One of the major concerns I have with the video, with the original rant video, is I feel like it drags on too long. Like it doesn't drag out too long. No, it's just, I feel like it doesn't flow quite right. And I feel like it doesn't really it does get to the point. What am I saying? It's a good video. But there's some things that I'm not really quite happy with the video. And I will, in the future, will be releasing a TLDR cut of the rant video. It will be considerably shortened and would be redesigned to sort of flow better. Mostly because whenever I watched it, it kind of felt like it kind of dragged. However, then again, I was working with only a script outline, not a proper script. And it was a video that, that I just sort of just winged it. Hence why it's super rambly, goes on for quite a while. However, it was my first attempt at making long-form content, and I want to say that I succeeded with flying colors, which is great. So one other thing I want to say about the video is that even though it wasn't super edited, I kind of wanted to create a very sincere experience. And so the video is probably my most sincere video that I have on my channel, and all things considered, it's quite a hefty video for it. If you want to watch the rant video, a card is right here up in the corner. Anyway, so what's the point of the rant video? The point is I want to get across how much that I hate the Saturn as a collector, but I also love as a gamer. So I enjoy retro consoles on two different levels, as a gamer and as a collector. Because a good example of a console that I like for both reasons is the PlayStation 2. I love it as a gamer because it has so many good, awesome games for it, and it's so much different varieties of games. And I love it as a collector because games are easy to obtain, and even the more expensive ones, even though there are $100 plus PS2 games, most of the more rare titles usually max out at like 50 or 60 bucks. A console that I hate as a gamer but not as a collector would have to be the Atari 5200. The controller sucks, using the console sucks, but hey, at least most of the games are cheap with the exception of like Gremlins or whatever. And the Saturn is an example of a console that I love as a gamer but dislike as a collector. And that's sort of the point of the rant video. Come on! One, go. So, I have a paper full of comments. These were comments made by YouTube users on the Saturn Rant video. So this is only just a small collection of comments. There's only four comments that we're really going to go through. However, they also bring up really good points. For one, there is a comment from
Name and address withheld
that says, I suggest getting the Satiator. It's basically a flash cart for the Saturn. And another posted, check out the Satiator. It's a flash cart for the Saturn and doesn't require removing the CD drive. So the Satiator is a great plug-in ODE. So in the back of the Saturn, there is a slot above where you put in the stupid watch battery that powers, the memory of the console. There is a cartridge slot for an MPEG video decoder box that plugs right in. However, in that same slot, there is a special plug-in flash cart for the Saturn called the Satiator. However, I briefly touched upon the Satiator during my rant video, specifically about the part where the Saturn requires a lot of ancillary hardware to get the most out of it. Because I feel like the most ideal retro console is a retro console that doesn't need a lot of extra hardware to really get the most amount of enjoyment out of. Going back to the PlayStation 2, all you need is the system, a controller, a game or two, a memory card, and the necessary cables. That's it. Going to the Nintendo Switch, all you need is the console, the dock, the controller, a game or two, and all the other cords. The Saturn, however, in order to get the most out of your Saturn, you need the console, a few games, the controller, the necessary cables, and you need a memory cartridge because there's not a lot of space on the internal save memory on the Saturn, and it's powered by a watch battery that's gonna die. So if you want to preserve your saves for more than 2 years, then you need a memory cartridge. Then you need either an Action Pro Replay or a Saturn Pro Kai cartridge in order to play your burned backup discs. Which is fine, and it also allows you to play imports, but they are quite pricey. And while Action Pro Replay cartridges, you can get them new for cheap, they're also notorious for breaking down. And then you need an ODE because the Saturn community makes a good point that the disc drives in the Saturn are made out of hopes, dreams, rubber bands, and paper clips, and they're gonna die. So you need an ODE because that disk drive is running on borrowed time. So what do? You get a Friendware or the other kinds of ODEs, and the Satiator is a good option because it isn't a replacement for the disk drive. However, much like the other ancillary hardware you need to get the most out of your Saturn, it's expensive as fuck. I think it's around like $250. So while I do appreciate that I want to get a Saturn to play backups and ROMs of games that I really want to play but don't have the money to obtain, yeah, I'm just gonna pass on the satiator. Like, I mean, yeah, I can save up money to go get a satiator, but for right now, I'm just gonna wing it with the disk drive, and I have my reason. Just pirate everything. Play on an emulator. I sold all my Saturn stuff. Wait until you run into the unknown 000 save bug on Shining Force 3 on real hardware. Okay, two things. One, let's discuss the P word, piracy. So in the previous video, I was a little cagey on mentioning piracy. This is because I'm a member of the Sega Saturn Shiro podcast Discord server, and one of their rules, which I'm going to put on the screen right now, is that you shouldn't discuss piracy or discuss piracy in a positive light. And as a member of that Discord, and because I don't want Saturn Dave and Patrick Tranico to come to my house to beat my legs until they're broken with steel pipes, I didn't want to mention piracy. However, because this is the follow-up video and because I doubt they're ever going to watch my content anyway, I agree. I think piracy is a great way to experience expensive-ass retro games without having to deal with, cheaper imports that are made in a language you can't understand, or games that are just absurdly expensive. However, as much as I want to say piracy is a great thing, I think there is a moral limit to piracy. Personally, I'm fine with piracy from the second generation of consoles to the sixth. Anything beyond that, however, I feel is kind of morally bad, and morally bad in the sense that it's going to be more easy for you to get in trouble. However, at the same time, for the amount of money you can get to buy a copy of Saturn Bomberman, you can get enough CDs to, build a house with. So, there you go. Playing on an emulator. Okay, this is the part where I disagree with the comment. A long time ago, I used to be all into emulators. However, because I want to experience games on a deeper level, outside of just playing the games on a keyboard with maybe a mouse, because I like to experience video games and consoles on a very personal, on a very holistic level. Like, I want to experience putting the disc in the drive. I want to experience the controller in my hand. I want to experience the operation of the system in a physical space. That, and as a armchair gaming historian, I want to experience video games the same way people experience video games back in its time of relevance. Like, I want to experience the cultural zeitgeist of the mid to late 90s. I want to experience the cultural zeitgeist of the early to mid 2000s. I want to experience the culture and times that these people that had to play these video game consoles had to experience. That's why I like working with real hardware. And emulation, to be honest, is kind of a cold and sterile way of enjoying games. That and a lot of the same people that advocate for emulators are also PC gaming master racists who think their swastika-shaped $500,000 RGB computer gaming rig, is better than anything else, other than that, console players who, think that 30 frames per second in low resolutions are not the way to go. So as a person who likes consoles, who likes retro consoles, and likes to experience games on a specific level, I just don't want to deal with emulators. Simple as that. It's not that I'm completely against emulators. I think emulators are a great way of experiencing games without having to get the original hardware and to keep games going as per game preservation. But personally, I like to work with real hardware. And another comment says, I would have gotten my money back for that Sonic Jam. Lol. I agree. I tried to return that disc. Well, actually, what I really wanted was a refund because I wanted to keep the disc. However, I learned the hard way that you just can't have your cake and eat it too. So, for better or for worse, I'm keeping that damaged Sonic Jam disc. However, recently I did make a burned backup. So now I can experience Sonic the Hedgehog 2 without the game crashing and booting me back to the Saturn menu and unloading my memory cartridge. Alright, so this fourth and final comment is a long one, and I'll be breaking up into different sections as we go along. I am constantly kicking myself in the balls every day because about 10 years ago I had a decent Sega Saturn collection. I had some of the best for it. Magic Knight, Ray Earth, Burning Rangers, Saturn Bomberman, Mega Man X4, just to name a few. I never got Panzer Dragoon Saga because $200 to $400 seemed so expensive back then. I don't know what compelled me to do it, but yeah, sold it around that time like a fucking idiot. Now I got a Japanese Saturn, an action replay, and a bunch of burned discs, but it's not the same. Yeah, I will agree with you. You should probably kick yourself in the back. But hey, hindsight's 2020, so I feel for you, man. And those are some good games too, like damn. Collecting for any system has become a fool's errand because companies and scalpers got so greedy. Especially since the pandemic happened, I tried to collect Nintendo Switch games for a while, and we're talking about a current gen system that has games still being made for it. And you got numerous games that go for triple digits because they're either only published physically by scumbags at limited run games who created a system of FOMO and made you buy now so you don't miss out later, or you got companies like Koei Tecmo who are friggin' morons and only produce small number of units, making all their games jump up in demand when they become popular. Attack on Titan is what? One of the most popular animes of the 2010s, and Attack on Titan 2 games, especially Final Battle, is hard to find on every platform. This is not some obscure game that came out 20 years ago. Talking about something published and released in the last 5 years. That's nonsense. And we see games triple their price in that time frame. Collecting is a bitch. Especially since the pandemic happened where everybody wants to play video games now of every different kind. Especially now that scalpers are fucking everywhere. And they will nickel and dime you until you're on your 15th mortgage. Yeah, I agree. It fucking sucks. And of course, there's always the companies that make too little games, too little quantity of games. So honestly, assholes are everywhere and they're all full of shit because they're assholes. It's not just affecting the Switch. I recently bought a fighting stick because I wanted to play more fighting games on my PS5. And well, last month I was looking for a copy of Guilty Gear Strive. eBay and Amazon prices equal $90 to $120 at the time I was looking. Fortunately, I found it for $40 at GameStop, but the going rate in non-retail means was outrageous for a game that came out last year and was still getting updates. Anyway, I'll watch the rest of your video tonight because I'm interested to see what you have to say. But as soon as I heard you talk about being a collector of games, I just knew I wanted to comment. Thank you, man. You're awesome. I know that feeling of being jealous of the YouTubers with a big collection. I think that's where this craze of every retro thing jumping has stemmed from. I hate those people like Metal Jesus who exist simply to show off their stuff. They are controlling the market, and they know it. When I worked at a buy-sell video game shop in the mid-2000s, we sold every NES game for $3.99. Didn't matter what the title was, because old games had less value. YouTube started, you had people like AVGN and others showing off their collections behind them, and suddenly every kid had a new game had a Every game had a unique value. The same shop I used to work at now has a copy of Kid Clown on the NES for $699.99 on their shelf. I'm like, this is bullshit. I don't care how rare this game is. It's probably a shit game and not even worth $6.99. YouTube collectors fucking suck, alright? They all suck. Like, yeah, they make awesome content, But if you're a collector who's on a small budget or simply don't give a fuck, it's absurd. They do control the market. They do. Whenever they make a video showing off their game, it jumps up 700% in value. And then these assholes grift off of it. Metal Jesus Rocks is a grifter. The AVGN, I don't think he's a grifter, but his Screenwave slob buddies are grifters. Big Ryan fan, by the way. I still buy Switch games, and by just buying what I want and not stressing about to get them all, I am slowly building a nice Nintendo Switch collection, you could say. Not complete, but by the time the system is retired, I'll have a nice shelf to look at with plenty of games to play. That's the way to go about it. Buying things aftermarket that sell insanely higher than their original retail value is just not the way to do it. It's a bad idea that can only end in regret. Unless you're rich, but even then, it's kind of stupid when money could go to charity. That was eloquently put. And I buy expensive ass games because, remember, I have autism. I know I probably can't say the R word because a bunch of people cancel me for it, but I am. And just to go to, I don't want to collect them all because here's the thing. I only want good games in my collection. I don't want shitty games, and personally, I just want games that I like and I think are neat. So I totally agree with the sentiment that as collectors, we shouldn't have to collect them all. Collecting games just suck. But at the same time, as a gamer, how else am I supposed to really enjoy these games? I don't like emulation because of for personal reasons. And maybe because I have a friend who is a PC gaming asshole who thinks everything should be done on PC and consoles should go fuck themselves because they're subhuman trash. But I mean, I have nothing else to say. Even though that was a super long comment, it was a comment that really gets the point of what I tried to rant about the Saturn. Alright, 3, 2, 1. Hey all, it's Sir Topham Hackaway. Oh, this lighting sucks. There, much better. Normally I don't film at night, hence with the weird lighting conditions. So, I wanted to address something that this video addresses. This is more so of just me addressing some concerns I had with the main rant video. And thus, by this point of the video, I've already addressed them. And I'm editing the video right now. I got about maybe the first minute and 29 seconds already done. The intro section, at least. And I want to say that I had some words that I wanted to tack on. So consider this part of the video the Sega Saturn Rant Part 2. In my previous one, I discussed why I like the Sega Saturn, how much I like it as a gamer, but I absolutely hate it as a collector. Because the games are expensive. In order to get the most out of your Saturn, you need to buy tertiary hardware, like a Satiator or a Saturn Pro Kai cartridge that I keep thinking is called the Saturn Porn Kai cartridge because I have a dirty mind, and you need a memory card cartridge thingy. You just need a lot to get the most out of your Saturn. I mean, you can get by just buying a bog standard Saturn and just playing games on it, but eventually your safe battery will go dead. Eventually your disk drive will die because, like I said in the rant, those disk drives made in the Saturn according to everybody in the Saturn Shiro podcast Discord server, are made out of rubber bands, paper clips, hopes, dreams, and a little bit of Sega Sanshiro's seminal fluid. The Sega jizz, dries out and the rubber bands get all nasty, and the hopes and dreams usually die out, so thus you need an ODE, hence the satiator, ephemera, or whatever permutation of a optical drive emulator that you need to get. And what I want to discuss in this rant are the Sega gamer channels. Metal Jesus Rocks. He's a shill. That's all I have to say about him. Anytime he wants to sell off a few of his games, he makes a video saying how great they are, and then him and his soy boy, subscribers go and jack up the price of the game, and he sells it, and he makes a grift. Of course, I do not have any evidence that this exists. This is merely just opinions and feelings, and in this day and age, feelings matter more than facts, so hence why I don't have any facts of, Metal Jesus Rocks, But all I know is that his Saturn Buyer's Guide really pisses me off. There's a card in the corner of the video, either here or there, to the Saturn Buyer's Guide. Yeah, but be aware it's slightly cringe, but, what haven't I made that isn't cringe? Sega Lord X. I like his content. However, he suffers from the same problem that most Saturn collectors have, and that's being born a generation before me, and thus being able to buy Saturn games while they're in the discount bin after it became discontinued, but before it became such a, hidden gem of a console or whatever. And hell, they even took advantage of the Saturn, being out in stores. You could buy a copy of, Sega Rally Championship for like 40, 50 bones, and, then resell it for, $90 when you're, wanting to profit off of your Saturn collection. By the way, I bought this copy for about maybe 40-ish bucks on LukeyGames.com. Highly recommend LukeyGames.com. They haven't sponsored me because I'm too small to do sponsors. So, I love them, but goddamn. Then there's the Saturn Show podcast, whom I love, and I wish I watched their podcast more often than I do. I like Nick. I like Trainico, even though he doesn't like Mr. Bones. So, if you're watching Trainico, spooky, scary skeletons, they shiver down your spine. The shrieking something souls. Spooky, scary skeletons, something. Yeah. And then what other YouTubers? I think that's about it. Regularly does Saturn content that I actually watch on a regular basis is Nick, and he's the Pandemonium guy, and he's great, and it's nice to see somebody, struggle with the same issues that I have in collecting, so. However, be aware, Mr. Pandemonium Man, at some point I'll be making another YouTube poop of your work. Let's cut to the next bit. Okay, so this next bit is my honest opinion on my Saturn collection. It's relatively sizable. Next, I will be cutting to a proper shot of the Saturn game. Let's look at them more in depth. So what you're looking over here is my Saturn collection. And there are, I believe, 30-ish games. If for eagle-eyed viewers, there may not be exactly 30, but I think there's 2 more right here that are little cardboard sleeves. This is my Saturn collection, and honestly, even though each and every one of these games was a bitch to obtain, maybe except for like Daytona USA, Worldwide Soccer, Pebble Beach Golf Links, which, by the way, I overpaid for at PAX East this year, so Cyber Speedway was also a cinch to get, so was Shanghai Triple Threat. But all the others, you know, had some sort of complication in it. For example, these two right here are not original cases. These are replica cases. Because getting complete with original case, it was too expensive. So what I did for Shining the Holy Ark, I got a disc, then I got the case. Sonic Jam, I got as a disc only, but then I got a case, but it didn't have a real manual inside of it. So I went on Etsy, where I go and I do these sort of things, and I bought a manual, a replica manual, which then I put in, and now it's a complete, even though you can tell that it's a replica case because the colors are off. Same here. This one's this one's saturated. This one's, I want to say, overexposed looking. So yeah, they're a little bit of the sore spot in my collection, but whatever. But here's the upside to having these expensive Saturn games or whatever. I feel like I have a more personal attachment to each and every one of these games than I do, say, my Switch or my PS2 collection, because, you know, I can go on Lukey Games, and for the low price of 25 bones, I can pick up like 3 games and a memory card and have that be the end of it. And because it's harder to maintain a Saturn collection, I feel like I take more pride in the collection. Like, I feel proud of this, okay? I feel proud. And I like it because I feel like I have a better, more personal attachment. I buy these games in either 1s or 2s because, again, I just don't have that much money. And because of that, I play, you know, sometimes I play the living shit out of them. Unless you're Worldwide Soccer, where you just stink, or because you're a pinball game that's, you know, where there's kind of not much to you, or the Need for Speed, where you control like a whale. Of course, Need for Speed games, the physics of the cars always feels like you're driving a large sea whale, but whatever. So yeah. That's my honest thoughts on my own personal collection. Like, yeah, I bitch and moan that these games are expensive. Again, if we look to that budget board, I only get $217 per month to really screw with. And even then, as you can see, there are sections and areas to which I spend my money. So, there. This is my Saturn collection, for better or for worse. So once again, we have reached to the conclusion of yet another one of my videos, and I will be doing more long-form content like this more often, especially now that I reached 260 subscribers, unlocked community posts, and I feel like I can cultivate my own little niche on this godforsaken website that is run by a megalomaniacal woman who cares more about corporation than she does honest-to-God creators. However, it's the same deal with Twitch, and at least YouTube HQ isn't run by a bunch of, you know, simps and, you know, horny losers. So, yeah. Thank you for watching. After the credits is a end card segment that I've made for future videos and stuff. Oh yeah, for most of the footage for this video, I do realize that I have the same shirt that I wore in the Saturn Rant video. That is purely coincidental. I pick my shirts at random before I go and do my daily business. My haircut is also a little bit different in the section of the video. That's because I cut my bangs so I could, you know, not have my hair appear underneath a wig when I went and cosplayed at a Halloween party. So, thank you for watching. Here are the end credits. Thank you.